are live. We are live. Congratulations. Laura is here today with us. Laura Dixon, do I pronounce it well?
Yes, yep, that's good.
Yeah, yes. Laura has several businesses or several activities which I actually didn't know about. I only knew about 341, which is business dedicated to everything made from coconut, right?
Well, 3x1 is actually three businesses in one, so it's not just the
Oh
coconut.
yeah, okay,
It's
okay.
everything. Yeah.
That's what it stands for.
Yes.
So, my dears, everyone who is listening to us, who is looking at us, say hello, say where you're listening from. We are very happy to have you together with us, and I'm super excited to listen to the story of Laura, and I hope that it will be useful for anyone who is listening to us as well, because a lot of us are dreaming about becoming entrepreneurs, and in Belgium is not exactly the straightforward.
No.
And I suppose that's what we are going to learn also about today. You know, all the sticks and stones you have to go through to actually keep yourself afloat in this complex bureaucracy. But yeah, I'm really excited. So let's start from the very beginning. And by the way, whoever is listening to us, please do ask your questions so Laura could reply them straightforward. What is it? Straightforward, right away.
Straight away.
Straight away. Okay, so how it was all starting? You were working in the corporate before you became entrepreneur, I suppose.
I'm a fashion designer. So I spent more or less 20 years working full time for various brands.
Was it always in Belgium?
No, so I went to university in the UK, and I had my first two jobs in the UK before moving to Belgium in 2008, so 13 years ago now. Not quite
Okay.
sure how that's happened.
Right,
Yeah,
right when the crisis started, right?
yeah, exactly. In fact, it was like two weeks ago was my 13-year anniversary here, more or less. So yeah, so
Congratulations.
I moved here to work for Wrangler, which is one of the big three denim brands.
Yeah.
So I'm a denim specialist, actually. That's what I specialize in. So yeah, I came here to work for Wrangler, and I was doing that more than full time. If you work in the fashion industry, your job tends to be more than full time. It's quite a hectic lifestyle, let's say. And yeah, I was doing that full time until I became self-employed in the beginning of 2017.
Okay, so tell us more about this transition. What has happened? Because you were saying that there was no really any plan, and
No.
that when you work for a company like Wrangler, I suppose also it's a dream of a lot of people, you know, to get into a company like this. So what made you switch?
What made me switch? Well, like I said before, I didn't really have any plan, and yeah, so I used to travel a lot for Wrangler because obviously we make jeans all over the world. I was traveling the world. I would spend probably about 1 week a month abroad somewhere, being in the factories, working with different people. So whilst I was traveling for Wrangler, I accidentally started with my own coconut products. So that was again a big accident. I was basically talking with a Sri Lankan colleague, and already at that point, I'd had an idea for another business with another fellow expat here in Belgium, another British girl that was living here. And we'd had an idea to do a kind of healthy snack delivery box where you pay a subscription fee and you get it through the mail. That kind of thing exists now, but back then in 2005, I think it was, nothing really like that existed here in Belgium. And we were both into kind of healthier food, and she had her kid had quite a lot of allergies and that kind of thing. And it was something that we were both, being British expats, we would be going back to the UK and buying snacks and stuff like that whilst we were back over there because we couldn't get that kind of thing here. So we'd kind of been having talks about, should we start this idea? And we'd got on the early stages of making this business. At that point, I then was traveling for the denim job, and I was speaking with Sri Lankan colleagues, like I say, And they were asking me about this idea that I'd had, and I was explaining it to them and telling them that, yeah, we were thinking to get started. And one of the guys that I had worked with really, really closely for years, he said to me, oh, you should speak to my brother, because my brother is in the process of regenerating his our family business. And I was like, what is your family business? And it turned out that their great grandfather was one of the first coconut millers in Sri Lanka. And in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were producing coconut oil. They had their own facility. They were exporting to Europe and to the States. And yeah, that was their family business. But obviously, during the 70s and the 80s, Sri Lanka had a big civil war going on. And in 1983, they lost everything, basically. Their whole coconut plantation was burnt to the ground, their production facility, their family home, like everything was destroyed in the civil war. So at that point, it was the grandparents that were running the business, and they were, I think, getting older at that point. So they just decided, we've lost everything. We're not going to rebuild it. We're just going to leave it. So yeah, so this is the family story, basically. Those grandparents then decided they were going to move to New Zealand and retire to New Zealand. So they went to live in New Zealand. And then at some point, the guy that I was working with, his brother also moved to New Zealand. And when he got there, he saw that, yeah, it was like 2013, something like that. He saw that coconut oil was becoming quite a trend in Australia and New Zealand. And people were starting to like, coconut oil was starting to be something that people were cooking with. And he was like, well, we still have the plantation back in Sri Lanka. Like, it's there, we still own it, but we're not doing anything with it. Maybe now is the time.
I think we lost Laura. Let me ping her. Oh, yeah, we lost you for a second. now Laura is completely lost. Yeah, let's wait her to join again. I will just ping her quickly. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Probably problems with the connection. Yeah. Meanwhile, we are waiting for Laura to come back. She's back already. I was about to give her a question. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, Laura is
Okay.
great.
So I don't know what happened. I got network connection lost. I'm on my computer, so it should be fine. But yeah. Yeah, so basically, they decided to regenerate to start rebuilding the family business. And I then started talking to the guy I was working with, brother, thinking that maybe I could get like little tiny jars of coconut oil to go in this like snack delivery box that I was planning to do. Long story short, we never did launch that snack delivery box company. But before I knew it, I had a pallet of coconut oil with my own labeling, my own branding and everything on a boat on the way to Antwerp. And yeah, I didn't really know how to clear customs. I didn't know anything. I just had a pallet of coconut oil on a boat.
So you were coming from Sri Lanka by boat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a bunch without any papers or anything. Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I understood at that point that I needed to have an EORI number and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I actually did first is I actually quickly set up a UK limited company.
Okay.
Because that's quick and easy to do. And as we all know, stuff in Belgium is not quick and easy to do. So the easiest thing for me to do was to quickly set up a UK company. Of course, Brexit was not a thing back then, so the UK was still in the EU. So on my UK company, I could import products from Sri Lanka to Belgium. That was totally fine. And back before Brexit happened, that was completely fine. So yeah,
So
basically,
you have to lose that status, because I know actually some people working here in Belgium, they do have their company registered in UK for tax
yeah.
optimization. With Brexit, did it change anything for that?
Um, well, I'm now registered here as well. As far as I know, you can keep your UK company. That's not really a problem. Um, but obviously, if you're moving goods around, there's not the free circulation of goods anymore. Um, I'm not really sure how it works if you're a freelancer, let's say, and you invoice through your UK company. I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
basically, yeah, I set up the UK company. I was still working full time, so for me, I did hear about the whole Baberup thing at that point. But I was also on expat tax status when I was working, when I was employed. So I didn't really want to lose my expat tax status at that point, because that's
Mhm,
also quite beneficial. So yeah,
mhm.
basically what I ended up doing was quickly setting up a UK company, getting my EORI number, which I knew that I needed to be able to import. And
Yeah.
yeah, this first pallet of coconut oil arrived in Antwerp, and I was kind of Googling like how to clear customs, and found myself a customs clearance agent, etc., and had
Oh,
it
okay. So you
delivered.
arrived. So you arrived to the port, and you already had the customs agents waiting for you there, or how did it work?
Yeah, well, basically, when you buy products, whether it's your own products or you're buying something from a supplier, there's different what's called Incoterms. So you can buy a product on an FOB basis, which means that the product you yourself have to pay for the transport, the insurance, and all that kind of stuff. You can buy on a CIF basis, which means that the person that's producing and sending to you, they pay for the transport and the insurance and the freight. So when you're starting out, it's easier to buy something on a CIF basis, because you don't need to worry then about getting the products on a ship or an airplane or however you're doing it. You don't need to worry about basically what you're paying to the supplier includes the cost of the shipping.
Okay,
So
I'm writing everything down.
yeah, there's quite a lot of Incoterms, but they're kind of the two most common ones. So at the beginning, yeah, because I didn't have a business set up or anything, my first pallet of coconut oil, the people shipping it, I bought it CIF, so the people shipping it, the people producing it paid for all the shipment and everything. They arranged for it to be on a boat, and then they handed over all the documentation for me. So once it arrived at the port here in Antwerp, I indeed needed to find somebody to clear customs. Now, most big logistics companies, they can do that for you, or they work in combination with a customs clearance agent. So I kind of Googled a little bit, found which agencies are here in the port of Antwerp, who could contacted a few, got a few quotes for how much it would cost, and I just went with one basically. So
And
yeah, so
I have like this limiting belief, probably those who are listening to us maybe as well. Like when you think about tax officer, like tax expert, let's say, or the person who will take care about customs, it feels like it's going to be very expensive. Is
it
it?
is expensive.
It is expensive. Okay.
Yeah, but it depends on your goods as well, though, because every single product
Yeah, it
has a
has its own
different
code.
tariff attached to it. It
Exactly.
also depends what country it's coming from. So, for example, all my products are coming from Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is still classed as a third world country.
Yeah.
So they have like a trade agreement with Europe that you get some reduced tariffs. So I don't pay full tariff, let's say. But again, it also depends product to product. So, for example, coconut nectar, because it's a sweetener product, that has a higher tariff on it
Yeah.
than the pure coconut oil, for example. So there's lots of different bits to it. But indeed, clearing customs is expensive, because you have to consider you have to pay the tariffs, you have to pay VAT as well when you clear customs, and it also takes time, huh? So for example, my last shipment that I got in a month or so ago, it came off the boat. The container was unloaded on, say, something like the 28th of January. But then it took 2 or 3 days before customs started clearing it. It then takes customs 3 or 4 days to do the clearance before they release the goods to you. So you actually need to pay for storage during that time as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I had no clue about any of this stuff when I started.
I mean, when you go through something like this, then you understand the cost of certain products, right? Because we always expect everything to be so cheap.
Yep.
But then, I mean, I know now for the fact, because we start also importing clothing, the one you see on me. But this one is even, I brought it for myself, so it was not going through customs.
Yep.
It was just for me. But we are going through this educational process as well. That we need to find someone in the sending country who will organize all the papers, who will do the certification of products, who will bring the products to customs, clear the customs in Uzbekistan, in that country, and then we have to receive them here and find the agent here and pay customs here. Like, it's really great. And then you understand that good things coming from far away, they just can't cost cheap.
Exactly.
Unless, you are like a huge corporation that buys in huge
Exactly. I mean, of course, the more products you buy, you split that cost across more items, so it becomes more affordable. But everybody has to start somewhere, huh? So you have to start small before you get big. And indeed, that's why, I mean, you think you're buying your shirt from your producer at whatever price you're buying it, but that's not the end of the cost. There's a whole lot of other things that come on that before you even get your hands on it. Indeed. I mean, and I obviously knew this because obviously I've been working in the fashion industry for 20 years. So I knew all about like shipping terms. I knew that different things had different tariffs on them. And because obviously I used to also move fabric between countries quite a lot. So I knew, for example, that if I bought a fabric in Pakistan and I sent it to a producer in Turkey, a garment maker in Turkey, I knew that had a duty attached to it, and then they would make the product, the garment in Turkey, and then they would ship it to the EU. And I knew then that there was different tariffs because the country of origin, part of it was Pakistan, part of it was Turkey. So obviously I kind of knew that all this stuff existed and was a part of it, but I didn't really have a clear understanding of the cost implication, let's say. And actually...
So sorry, finish.
Well, and I didn't really realize as well, like how not complicated per se, but how difficult it is when you're a small business, because you find a shipping agent, for example, that works for you and helps you do your customs clearance and everything. But when you're a small business, you're just one person, and not that they don't treat you seriously, but they always have bigger clients who are spending more money with them and who they put as priority. So if you're not careful, so like I said, for example, you end up paying storage charges until your products have cleared customs. If you're not careful, your customs clearance agency or your logistics partner, whoever's doing it for you, they maybe push you aside while they deal with other customers, and then you end up paying more because it's taken longer than it should have. So yeah, it's all these little things that I was clueless when I went into it. I was like, yeah, let's have my own brand of coconut oil. Let's order some. Let's order some. Yeah. And then I just started to figure it out as I went. So
yeah, it's crazy, and I totally relate, because so now with these fabrics, what I'm wearing now is quite unique. It's made by hand, it's dyed by hand. And there are a lot of producers in Uzbekistan who are doing it, and you can buy it for quite a good price. But the problem is they will not do a certification for you if you are not buying like huge amounts of bricks, and this is what we faced as well. It's like, okay, but who is going to do the certification for us? So we had to hire someone who would buy the fabrics from those people and then do the certification. So it's all additional cost, of course.
Yep.
But anyways, tell me, okay, so this your first
So yeah,
when you brought it into the port, and then all of a sudden you realize, yeah, that you need to have a storage, and you don't sit in the port of Antwerp, trying to
right.
do all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so the coconut oil arrived, it cleared customs. I got a message that I could go pick it up from the port, or I could have it delivered, but then you also pay for delivery as well. So the first shipment, I was like, I'm not going to pay for delivery. I'm going to go to the port and pick it up. So I was there in my car. I had another friend joining me in her car as well, because obviously it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So we went and filled our cars up with the product once it had been released, and yeah, brought it back home where we stored it just in the garage to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was how we start. And then from there, I started doing some like little markets, some local markets here in Antwerp, a few markets in Brussels, like generally all around, started doing some markets. Quickly
Yeah,
put,
but tell me about markets as well. So, yeah, no, let's scroll back a little bit. About searching for an agent, because you don't know the prices, right? You don't know what is the right price. You don't know what is like this, what is something overpriced.
yeah.
So how you were making decision about choosing an agent for yourself?
To be honest, that's something that's really difficult, and I still don't have the perfect solution for that. Yeah, the first time it was a matter of kind of Googling and finding who there was in the port of Antwerp,
My
and just sending out emails to various companies and saying like, this is what is on the way, this is what ship it's on, because obviously I had that information. Could you give me an indication of how much it would cost to have it cleared customs and delivered? And yeah, I got 2 or 3 different quotes, and then I just kind of went with, yeah, the one that I sort of had an okay communication with, and the one that was a decent price. But to be honest, my learning 5 or so years down the line is that shipping is a nightmare, and all the companies are a nightmare. So over the years, I did my first few shipments with the same company. Then they also advised me as well at one point that it would be much more beneficial for me to ship FOB instead of CIF, which is when I pay for the shipment myself. So I switched to that method, which then became a little bit more complicated for me, because I also had to make sure then that everything was delivered to the port in Sri Lanka at the right time together, and I had to make sure that I had to book it onto a ship myself and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more complicated, but in the end, it works out better financially. So yeah, so I switched to that shipping method, but still with the same company. But to be honest, like I've tried another shipping company in the meantime as well, because this shipping company I was not happy with the communication with at all. I switched to another one. They were also a nightmare, and
um,
they charged a lot more. So I went back to the original one. Now for my next shipment, I don't have it planned yet, but I've been investigating a couple of other shipping companies. So I think I might try and switch again for the next shipment. But yeah, the more I talk to people,
try. Like it's more, yeah, it's a lot about test and try and see how it.
yeah,
In our case, what we are also looking at DHL, because what
yeah,
we're estimating, if we do the shipment ourselves, I mean not ourselves, but through the shipping company, and agents, and do the customs and everything, I think
yeah,
it's also a lot of nerves.
yeah,
I'm sending it with DHL, and they do the customs
yeah,
themselves,
exactly.
so it's much easier. It's a little bit more expensive,
Yeah.
so we
Although
have,
to be honest, right now it's not that much more expensive.
yeah.
Okay,
So
I can't really ship my stuff DHL because it's heavy, and it like the last shipment weighed like 4 tons, and it has to come on a boat rather than a plane. Yeah, but
a lot.
but for example, like because post pandemic, all the container ships are in the wrong part of the world, so
Yeah.
it's really difficult to get a spot on a container ship right now, which means that shipping prices currently are way higher than normal, which means that DHL is actually a more affordable option at the moment. And I was actually talking to a contact that I know who imports to Belgium garments from Pakistan,
Yeah.
and he never would normally use DHL, but he said for the last shipment, actually DHL worked out at basically the same price.
Pretty,
So
but
right
really,
now, I think,
because for me, what is important is not only the price, but also
you get it done.
how much you need to engage yourself, because in
Yeah,
our case, if we go for those kind of special shipments, the planes only go to Frankfurt, I think. They don't go to Belgium directly. That means that they should go to customs there, then they
yeah,
should be picked up from there. For me, it's like, oh my God, I don't want this headache.
yeah,
I prefer to pay more,
yeah,
but it's delivered right here,
yeah.
right to my door.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's a little bit more complicated because, yeah, like I say, my products are all heavy.
Yeah,
They're coming from a third world country, so customs clearance is a little bit different because of that. And of course, they're all organic certified. So
yeah.
there is a whole big different customs clearance procedure that has to go on, because the organic certification has to be traced all the way back to the farm. So even like the Flemish government has to sign off the import, basically. So there's a whole big European Union wide system for moving organic goods. So I have the additional complication with that where DHL type
Mhm.
can't handle that. But indeed, in your case, and especially, yeah, the first couple of times you do it, until you really know what you're doing and how you're doing and how much you want to do, I think DHL is probably like the most straightforward way.
We'll see. I will keep you updated as well.
Yeah,
Also because
yeah,
there are some changes in customs for textile
yeah.
from Uzbekistan, so I hope I will take advantage of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so tell me about the next step, how you started
So
to.
yeah, so that was like 2015. The coconut oil arrived here. I was still working more than full time for Wrangler. So at that point, I was just yeah, selling on the odd market at the weekends. I'd set up a bit of a website, selling a
And
little bit on
how do you, so what year was it again?
that. So the first coconut oil arrived in September, I think it was 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah,
And for what platform did you go for the website?
Squarespace.
Squarespace. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
tried Wix. I
you're
tried Wix first, but couldn't get on with it at all. And then tried
Oh
Squarespace,
my
and
God, Wix, I tried it several years ago. I suppose it improved from since then, but it was a nightmare.
yeah,
I haven't
I
tried.
had exactly the same thing. A few people had said to me like, "Oh, Wix is really easy. It's all customizable," and I was like, "I can't do this. This is a nightmare." And yeah, and then another friend was like, "Oh, Squarespace is quite easy, especially if you're a designer. It's quite intuitive." So I was like, "Okay," and
So
I
you're
gave it a
still
go.
Squarespace.
Yeah, yeah,
You're still
yeah.
how the integration works? Like, do you have the third party inventory platform where you track how many goods were sold? No, it's all.
Well, I have to do that for organic certification. I have to every year, like I have to show where all my sales have gone. So at the moment, it's still manual. I do everything manually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just keep like a Google sheet
Yeah.
with all my sales and where they've gone. I have obviously some invoicing software for writing invoices when I make B2B sales. Um,
Do you have returns?
sorry?
Sorry, I will let my doggy go because she's. So do you have returns sometimes? So that people bought something and they want to return it.
I've never actually had a return. No.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with my kind of products, they're not
Yeah, it's not like with
really,
clothes.
yeah,
It's like, oh,
not like people try them on. Yeah, yeah,
this coconut doesn't suit me.
exactly. Exactly. 'Cause yeah, for fashion retailers, that is a huge issue, which I'm advocating quite a lot about right now. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I started just selling on markets. I started selling a little bit on my website. I was
Tell me a little bit more about the markets. Like it must be so strange, like all your life you worked like in a big corporation, in the Wrangler, and all of a sudden you have to stand at a stall in a market. I mean, first of all, how do you get to a market?
you load everything into your car.
No, I mean,
Or how
like
do you find them?
you have to register, right?
Yeah, so at the beginning, it was just a matter of like looking on Facebook, seeing events pop up and like messaging them, asking if you could have a stall. And then once you've sort of done a few, it kind of snowballs from there. You get to hear about other ones. So yeah, and also around that time, I guess veganism was becoming quite a thing
Yeah.
in Belgium. So there started popping up quite a few vegan markets and things. And of course, yeah, all my products are anyway vegan.
Do you speak French?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah, just speak. My difficulty is, yeah, like I'm resisting.
But to be honest, I mean, well, here in Antwerp, everything is in Dutch. But
Well,
I never speak Dutch or French on the markets. I always speak English.
yeah, yeah, I lived in Antwerp actually, and everyone speaks English there. That's true. So
Yeah,
it's
but even when I do a lot of markets in Brussels, I've done quite a few in the Ardennes kind of area as well, and I always speak English. It's never really an issue. Like,
okay.
I mean, I can understand, like, as long as you can kind of understand what they're saying to you, then if you kick off in English,
Yes,
fine.
just show the price, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's kind of different, but in the same sense, like working for a corporation, okay, I guess like working for a fashion corporate or a denim corporate is not really the same as working in, I don't know, banking or legal. I mean, like I say, I spent most of my time traveling and working with suppliers and basically fostering relationships
Yeah,
with
yeah.
them. So I spent a lot of time talking to people and explaining what I needed and what I wanted. And so, yeah, so it's basically the same on a market, like just as long as you can engage with people. And I think I have like quite a good story to tell about how the whole thing started. Like people can never really believe that. And they never really believe that I'm doing three things at once. And so like I have that story and people can kind of engage with that. And alongside which like the products are amazing. So the nice thing about being on a market is that I can have products open for people to try so they can really taste everything, and that gets them hooked, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, back at the beginning, I only had coconut oil. So so 2015 was when the first ones arrived, and then up until end of 2018, I only had coconut oil. I had one product. So at that point, I could have like the tiniest stall on the market, and I would rock up with like a table full of coconut oil.
And how does
And
it work? Like the price, what does it depend? Does it depend on the size of the stall?
for the market, it really depends on the event, to be honest. Like some of them charge you like per meter, for example. Some of them will sell a space to you, but you need to take your own table. Some will sell a space with a table and chair. Yeah, every single one is different, to be honest.
Okay. And if it's
Some
not
some are super cheap, some are really expensive, and
okay,
there
so I
doesn't
want to
seem to
know
be
what is the price range?
anything from like 20, 30 euros to 200, 300. If you want to do a trade show, then that's really expensive.
Well,
But like a normal consumer market. So if I think like, for example, here in Antwerp, normal times, we have quite a few like small markets on the like little squares and stuff. And quite often they're kind of like 30, 40 euros for a pitch. But the bigger vegan markets, so for example, the Brussels Vegan Street Fair, which is going to be in May, if everything goes to plan, that normally costs like over 100 euros for a pitch, I think. So it really varies in price. Like there is no standard, and there is also no secret formula that if you pay more, it's going to be a better market. Sometimes the ones that you pay absolutely nothing for, you think are going to be terrible, they end up being the best ones. And I mean, obviously now there's a lot of regular people kind of on the market scene, so we all kind of know each other, and everyone's always like, I have no idea like what the magic formula is for knowing if a market is good. I mean, for example, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, I did at one of the Steiner schools in a village just outside Antwerp. They had a Christmas market, and normally it was like Friday evening and Saturday all day. But I was already booked for something on the Saturday when I saw it, so I messaged them saying like, "Hey, could I come just Friday evening?" They were like, "Yeah, no problem." So I think I paid something like 20 euros to have a stand from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. or something on a Friday evening. So a really short time period as well. I sold great. And then like the next day I went and did a proper big organized market, and I'd sold, I think, a little bit less than I'd sold the night before. And so you really can never tell with the markets either. So some of them are terrible, some are brilliant. Doesn't matter what you spend. There's no like magic formula for it.
And what works better though, online or offline?
For me, offline.
Because yeah, people can touch it, they can smell it, they can taste it.
Exactly. And I think as well, like a lot of my products, well, all my products basically are kind of unknown here in Belgium still. I mean, in the UK, people know the coconut products a lot more and have been using them a lot more. But yeah, in 2015, my first markets, people were petrified of coconut oil. I'd be asking them like, "Do you want to taste it?" And they'd be like, "You can
Right.
eat it." Like,
Can I
yes,
eat that?
right. And even now, like they'll come up to a stall and be like, "Coconut jam, what is that?" Just try it. So yeah, so a lot of things are kind of quite foreign
Well,
in Belgium. So
yeah, Belgium is my eighth country, the eighth
yeah,
country I live in. So it's fascinating how, I'm sorry to say that, but like how backwards it is in like a lot of things,
yes,
which is so strange because it's like heart of Europe and it's supposed
right.
to be like,
People are generally very like stuck in their ways, and they're quite scared to try new things. And I'm like, it's food, so it's not going to poison you. Okay, if you don't like it, that's fair enough, but give it a try. Like,
yeah,
but
I know.
things are changing. Okay, now I haven't done any events for pretty much a year now, but I did see things changing, and especially like I said, with the rise of veganism, people were
Healthy
more,
food,
yeah,
yeah.
people are becoming more open to more unusual foods, I think, as well. So, I see it changing. Hopefully, it'll keep changing now.
Yeah. Ladies, whoever is listening to us, maybe not only ladies, do ask the questions to Laura, and I will meanwhile ask about stick and stones, uh, taxes, maybe, or any difficulties that you faced on the way that you could share that so others could learn from you and not, um, yeah, have the same problems.
Yeah. Well, Belgium is a bit of a minefield, like we alluded to. So yeah, so I quit my full-time job with Wrangler at the beginning of 2017. And I hadn't really made any great decision. Like, am I going to stay in Belgium? Am I going to move somewhere else? What am I going to do? But I thought, okay, for now, let's stay in Belgium. So I thought, okay, I if I'm going to go self-employed and I'm going to freelance, then I probably need to set something up. And so I contacted an accountant, and I was asking the question like, can I work through my UK company because my UK company is existing already? What do I need to do? And he was like, no, you need to also be set up as an identity here, as an entity here. So the best thing for you would be to be set up as self-employed.
But so basically, so if most of your clients are in Belgium, then you have to have business registration in Belgium.
Well, as it was told to me, if you want to stay resident in Belgium, you have to have a status in Belgium, whether that's as an employee or as a self-employed.
All right.
That
Okay.
was how it was explained to me.
Hmm.
He told me that being self-employed was the best option for me. Turns out it wasn't. But okay, I had no idea, so that's what I did. So yeah, so I got self-employed status here. I then started working for Calvin Klein in New York and didn't spend any time in 2017 in Belgium, basically.
Mhm.
And
I love Calvin Klein, by the way.
and yeah, so that year I was basically working kind of between New York, Italy, and Amsterdam, not here very much. But what I didn't know at that point was that actually I was earning too much money to be self-employed. So what happened? A year later down the line, I got the whopping tax bill because I didn't know that self-employed status meant you had a high tax
And that
limit.
you probably didn't expense much, right?
Well, no, exactly.
That was
Exactly.
actually, I had the same mistake. So because when I was trying for the first time, to be an entrepreneur, also in the status of self-employed. Like now I'm thinking about that. How comes I didn't take time to understand how the whole system works? Because again, like I didn't do any expenses. I was buying things, quite expensive things. I was not expensing them. And if you don't
Well,
expense them, then of course your earning is high
yeah.
and you have to pay a lot of taxes.
Well, I thought I was expensing a decent amount of stuff, but then the accountant that I had, so for example, I'm used to the UK, that's my background. In the UK, you can expense things without having your VAT number on an invoice. You just put the invoice through. We never put our VAT numbers on invoices and stuff. So I was buying samples, let's say, in a store here and just putting through the regular receipt as my invoices. Same with like, my internet bill and stuff like that. I was just putting my regular plan through. And it wasn't until like a year later that my accountant was like, but you can't claim any of these stuff as expenses because you don't have an invoice. And I was like, what do you mean? I've given you the receipts. Yeah, but you have to have your VAT number on the invoice. And I was like,
He was like, let me.
how do I do that? I was like, if I bought these samples in Zara,
Yeah.
like, how do I? And he was like, you have to ask them for an invoice. And I mean, I'd never even dreamt that you could stand in the Zara store and be like, I need an invoice for my purchases.
Yeah.
But that's what happens here. And yeah, so I guess it's kind of like culturally as well. Like, I guess, yeah, I didn't do a lot of research because, yeah, like my accountant in the UK, for example, shares a lot more information with me than the account. Okay, I have a different accountant here now, but he would like if I'd have put through an invoice that didn't have.
Oh, we lost Laura again. But yeah, whoever is listening to us and who is thinking about having business or registering yourself first as a self-employed person, please, 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 please do take time to understand how the whole system works. Because yeah, if you don't educate yourself, you can easily get very high fines and taxes as well. Yeah, so just following up on what you were saying, that it's crucial in Belgium. You can't, just go into entrepreneurship if you don't know how the whole system works. And there are a lot of new little things that can change a lot of things.
Yeah, but
Taxation.
at the same time, I'm also kind of the philosophy like, if you know all this stuff, it's almost too scary.
As well,
It puts a
actually.
lot of people off. So actually, I mean, if I look at my journey now, and okay,
Yeah.
I'm still a really complicated case here because I'm bootstrapping my own brand, which means that my cash flow is like this because when I'm consulting for a denim or a fashion brand, I'm earning a decent income, but then I'm plowing that money back into my own brand. So my cash flow is never steady, which for Belgium is like, it's so complicated. And if I'd have known all this, like in hindsight, I would probably have never started because it is so complicated that
Well, you are right.
you almost shut down over it.
Because this is also the way I have learned. Yeah, I also got very bad fines and high taxes. And if I didn't get that, I wouldn't force myself really into learning that because
Yeah,
you're learning
exactly.
on the
Exactly. I mean,
go.
if somebody had turned to you and said before you even started, like, okay, if you're going to earn 500 euros a day, you're going to give 250 euros of that to the tax man and another 60 or whatever to the social security, you'd be like, I'm not going to do that then because it's not worth it. So, yeah, it's almost like if you know too much, it puts you off, and it's frustrating because it means that Belgium is not very open to entrepreneurs and it's not very forgiving to entrepreneurs. Which is a
Well,
shame because it means that society's not really progressing so much. But
even yeah, you can forget about that. But when we lost Laura again, but when you learn how it actually works, the taxation, tax optimization, what you can expense, what you cannot expense, then it makes much more sense. So once you have that information in hand, when you have, let's say, your balance sheet where you can see how much you spent, how much you received, what is your balance, how much in taxes you should pay, how much in social welfare you should pay, then you start to have clarity. Okay, how much I've earned, how much I'm gonna pay for all those things, and how much is left for me. But it's tricky. But there is a comment here from Emma.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura.
I'm in that group.
Yeah,
I'm in that group. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so is there anything else you want to share before we go?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I don't think people should be scared off by the bureaucracy and by all the complications of it. Like yeah, my philosophy really is, if you don't try, you don't know. I mean, when I quit my full-time job, I wasn't making money from the coconuts yet. I literally only had that one product, the one coconut oil, so I wasn't making any income from it. It wasn't significant at all. And I said, yeah, I'm going to freelance as a designer, but I didn't have any clients lined up at that point. So everyone was really like, you're crazy. Why are you quitting like a really good job with a good income, a stable income? And I was like, if I don't try now, I'll never know. Like, I've got to give it a try.
It's
And what's the worst that can happen? Like,
yeah, it's so much more fulfilling, right? Because I also
exactly.
work in all these huge corporations where you have to play politics and you have to play the games of bosses and things like that. And I just understood that I don't want that at all in my life. And I know it's hard, like being an entrepreneur and dealing with all those invoices and, as you said, begging sometimes, give me the invoice, with my VAT number, please.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, even if you're not an entrepreneur with, say, your own brand person, I mean, because now I consult still for various fashion companies, for brands, for retailers, for mills, alongside doing my own brand as well. And in a way that might seem easier being a consultant for another company, but in a way it is, but you also still have a lot of things that you have to think about, like your invoices never get paid on time. Every company you work with has a different invoicing procedure, probably. So you have to keep up with all that stuff. Like, you have to think, okay, I work for X brand for, let's say, 3 days a week, but you almost always would need to put another day aside to be chasing up the paperwork for that job as well. So
No, yeah, I am also a consultant. Actually, we are quite similar, because I do consultancy for digital marketing, and then I'm starting the clothing brands, and then I have the academy as well.
yeah.
So yeah, there are a lot of things, and you have to juggle them all together. And sometimes invoices don't come on time. So you also consider that.
Exactly.
Putting money on side and also invest in them to have that safety. Do you say safety pillow or safety cushion?
Safety net.
Safety net. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, safety net.
Not that I've ever been particularly an advocate of having a safety net.
But it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it much more than working full time in the corporate world. That's for sure.
Yeah, like you say, like you don't really have, okay, when you're consulting, you have a little bit of the politics and stuff, but you can kind of back away from that. And
it's easier because you
Yeah.
you don't need to care about promotion.
Yeah, exactly.
So while you see people fighting, to be seen, to be visible, to get promoted,
Yeah.
playing all this game, you're like, okay, I'm not a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And that's so good.
But yeah.
Okay. Tell me.
No, I
Yeah.
was just going to say, like, I mean, the nice thing as well about not being involved in politics of a corporation or whatever is that you can really stay true to your mission and your beliefs. You don't need to compromise yourself necessarily. So if you're starting your own brand, then you can really pursue your vision and your beliefs. And if you're a consultant as well, like, you can pick and choose who your customers are. Like, I mean, I know, for example, like, I've had various fashion brands come asking me to work with them, asking me to help them. But for me, if they're not interested in being sustainable, for example, I won't work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them that straight up. Like, I've had a few conversations with people. Okay, it's fine if they're not currently working sustainably, but they want to, then I can help them with that. Like, that's what I do. But if it's a brand that are not really interested in that at all, then I just won't work with them. And okay, maybe I could do with the money. Maybe it would be a help for me to have that income, but I want to stay true to my moral compass as well. So I don't want to work with people who, don't have the right ethos and the right belief behind it. And it's the same when I'm sourcing my products. Like, I want to talk to all the farmers. I want to talk to all the producers. I want to be there on the ground with them to know that everything is coming from the right places, and that I know that everybody involved is being treated fairly. I know that there's no monkeys, for example, being used to pick any of the coconuts. I know that the girl making my soaps is making everything very much the way that she wants to make them, and she doesn't have anybody standing over her saying, like, you have to get 50 soaps made. Yeah, exactly. So when you're doing your own thing, you can very much stay true to yourself. Whereas, in the corporate world, you're pleasing people, let's say, and they don't necessarily always have the same beliefs that you do. So that's the nice thing about
That's
entrepreneurship.
true. Well, Laura, I'm really happy that you have found what you really like doing, and I wish it to everyone who is listening to us. You have the last chance to ask a question. I have a comment here from Wooly, who's saying that she loves my e-cat shirt. Thank you so much. Uh, my dears, thank you so much for being with us. It's almost 1 hour. It flies. It was fun. It was interesting. I really enjoyed this conversation. I wish you a lot of luck. I hope your business continues uh, growing like crazy. And when COVID iron curtains fall off, I hope there will be much more markets and much more interesting things happening, so the sales will pick up as well. So wish you all the best, and we will be in touch.
Yep, absolutely.
And have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.